Hello again. So in this video, we're going to get into specific focus modes, metering modes, and your camera drive mode. In other words, this is how we're going to get your camera to be able to shoot pictures very, very fast, and really what sets DSLRs apart from bridge cameras. So first, your focus mode. Remember how I said to shoot an AI servo? Now, you've probably already seen one downside to using AI servo, that when your subject moves through the frame, your camera has the tendency to refocus. And while your camera is refocusing, you've missed the shot. So here is where back button focus and setting your focus point are going to come into play. So first, back button focus. What is it? Well, the first, just like the name implies, back button focus is using one of the buttons on your camera body to focus instead of the shutter button. So obviously every camera is different, so you're going to have to Google how to set this up for your camera body. But what this is going to do is that this will allow you to focus your camera without having to hold that shutter button halfway before taking the picture, and allow you to keep focused on your subject without your camera refocusing. So we want our camera to focus on a single point and stay focused on that point no matter what happens. This is going to solve your problem of your camera refocusing when you don't want it to. Next, you're going to want to set your focus point. You need to tell your camera where you want it to focus. Now, by default, most cameras are set to what is called automatic autofocus point selection. Now, we don't want that. Your camera is trying to get the entire scene in focus in that mode. We want to tell the camera only to focus on one spot, our subject, obviously in the center. Now, same thing with back button focus. You're going to have to look up how to set this up for your specific camera model. Now, the final thing regarding focus. If your lens has an autofocus motor or stabilizer, it's going to look something like this. In general, you're going to want to shut it off. Why? Now, I can only speak from my experience, but at least for me, there is a tiny amount of lag in between when you hit the shutter button and when your camera actually takes the picture when you're using the stabilizer. That stabilization motor generally has to spin up. That's how image stabilization works. Now, that little bit of lag can often mean the difference between you getting the shot and missing it. But try it both ways, because I know of a lot of photographers that have newer lenses where you don't really have that lag and it works for them. So again, just try what works for you. All right, so we've now got our focus mode all set up. Now what do we have to do? The next thing that you're going to want to set is your camera meter. Now, like I said in a previous video, your camera meter is how your camera is reading the light available in the scene. Generally, most cameras have 3 or sometimes even 4 different meter modes. Generally, it's evaluative, center weighted average, spot, and partial. Now, partial is only on Canon, so sorry, Nikon folks. Center weighted average tends to be the worst, in my opinion. What's happening here is that your camera is trying to take the average amount of light in the scene and apply it to everything. Well, we don't want that. You want to tell your camera, I only want you to look at the light right here. You really either want to be in either evaluative, where your camera is going to put more emphasis on the center subject but still takes the background into account, or spot, which only focuses on a certain spot and ignores everything else. Now, at least for me, spot doesn't cover enough area, so that's why I prefer evaluative. But again, try both and see which one works better for you. The final thing that you're going to want to set is your camera drive. Now, this is how often your camera is going to take pictures. You want your camera to be in continuous shot. Remember, this is why you don't want a bridge camera. Bridge cameras can't do this. So in other words, as long as you are holding that shutter button down, your camera is going to take a picture. This is also why we want a fast memory card. Remember how we talked about memory cards? You want your camera to be able to write to your card as fast as your camera can take pictures. Now, in the next video, we're going to get into more detail about composition and basic do's and don'ts. We'll also talk about what makes a good photo. And I'll tell you now, it's not the number of likes that you're getting on Instagram.